Well, got to talk about what happened first, then we can talk about the questions.
Okay, we'll talk about what happened.
All right, what did you think of it?
Well, it's really hard to say what I thought of it. I mean, like my reaction when I watched it was I laughed a lot because it was I thought that a lot of the stuff was kind of funny. Now, as news, I thought that obviously there were some very strong points as far as the independent contractor stuff, which is something that we've talked about for 30 years, and it's still there. Some of the stuff, there were a lot of really old clips that they put in there that I was
That was the number one thing that I thought about this. It was like I jumped into a time machine, and I was watching some segment from 2005.
Oh, yeah,
he's got clips of Bret Hart talking about how Vince treats the wrestlers from 1997.
That was from 1987 interview. Yeah, but the fact is that point, the point that he made was still a point that a lot of people would still make today. So it's just weird that you see Bret Hart looking so young in a 20-plus-year-old interview. I will say one thing: the Vince McMahon Armin Katayan thing, as bad as that was when it happened, and it was bad, and in today's world, he looked like a freaking psychomaniac. Like back then, it was just, well, that's Vince, and he's just out of control, and he did the Bob Costas thing, so people sort of expect it. But now, it's like when people are a lot more careful with what they do, and with social media the way it is, that people aren't really like, they don't go off like complete maniacs like he did. And then also just that, like when they talk about the deaths, and he's like, I remember I thought Vince came off horrible with Armin Katayan when that thing played, whatever, how many years ago, and that was a long time ago. It was when that story was actually a very salient story compared to now, where, things have changed without a doubt. We don't have, I'm writing a lot of obits, but they're older people. They're not, guys in their 40s very often, as compared to before, where it was horrible. The one thing is like, there was a time when that aspect of the business was horrible, and it's unbelievable that we went through that period for so long before anyone did anything. But the people who grew up watching these guys, this generation of wrestlers, was a lot smarter than their predecessors, and learned from their mistakes, and the company learned as well, and put in some safeguards. But the reality is it's like, the WWE safeguards probably have helped, without a doubt have helped, and it's a good thing. But if you go back to the late 90s when this thing was at its worst, the fact is that this cloud of death that this industry really had, it was not a WWE problem. It was a United States pro wrestling problem. It was in ECW, it was in WCW, and it was in WWE. Or WWF as it was called at the time. So it was in all promotions. It wasn't like, it's your fault. It was like the whole thing. Every promotion had this problem. And now, WWE's made changes for the better, without a doubt. But it's also, the whole industry is cleaned up. It's not like we see these guys dropping left and right outside WWE. There will always be something. There will always be people who succumb to drugs, no matter what you do. You'll never have it 100% clean, but obviously it's much, much better now. And the standards are better. The schedule, even though the physical demands are very high, the schedule's tough. It's not as tough as it once was. But it's still, and it probably still shouldn't be as tough as it is, but it's not as bad as it once was. And really on the indie scene, where the guys do a lot of stuff, the reality is that they're not working, well, some guys are, but for the most part, they're not traveling nearly as hard, and they're not working 6 nights a week or 5 nights a week. They might be working twice a week, so their body does have time during the week to recover. So there's, again, it's not like the schedules of the past where, the schedules were a big culprit in everything. So, but the whole point is the industry itself is also cleaned up. It's not just WWE's cleaned up. So, it's a different type of lifestyle. You've been in dressing rooms. It almost shocks me when I'm around guys now, and then I think back to what it was like in the 90s, because it really is just a different.
It's night and day.
Yeah, it's a different generation of guys. So it's a different business. As far as I think that they tried. See, one of the problems when you're doing a show that's when you're doing political commentary and it's also humor based, is that sometimes you say stuff for laughs, and that obfuscates the real serious stuff. And there is serious stuff in there, and it also makes it easy to dismiss. Like like the clips of Vince McMahon getting the stink face and being hit with the bedpan. I mean, they're trying to in one frame, I think part of it is they didn't want to be wrestling haters. They kept going, maybe perhaps overboard, that wrestling is really great and we really love wrestling, but the treatment of the wrestlers is not the best. And I get taking that tack because I kind of think the same way. But I think that by showing Vince McMahon doing all that comedy stuff, and then at the same time doing all that, the stuff, the Armin Katayan thing, okay, you kind of like almost make that Armin Katayan thing like another part of the comedy. It's like, oh, here's, Vince McMahon, who, gets hit in the head with a bedpan by Steve Austin, and now he's out there acting like this monster heel, when in fact that interview was not supposed to be in character. That was supposed to be a real news interview. And I think that was kind of like a mixed message, so to speak. A lot of this, as far as like that show goes, I believe stemmed from the fact that they went to Saudi Arabia and it was so repugnant to those people that they just said, like, this has got to be, like, what company would still go to Saudi Arabia at that point, especially that week that they went. And it's kind of like, what kind of sleazy company is this? And then it's kind of like, well, let's dig into it and find out. And, if you dig enough, you find enough. And it's like, they had it all out there, a lot of stuff. But, again, because it's comedy, it's not really journalism. Even though there's, like I said, there was some legitimacy to it. But it also so, I don't know. I mean, I look at it like, okay, did they lie? No. Are the points valid? Yeah, they are. Could the schedule be better? They talked about that. Could you have an off season or at least cycle guys in and out? Yeah, you could. Absolutely. Are they independent contractors in WWE? No, they're not. Are they, and I know a lot of people talk about, like, well, what about the other companies? And it's like, they made it very clear that WWE in their minds is by and large the biggest group. So that's the people who they went after. And yes, every other company in the United States that runs the United States lists their guys as independent contractors. But I'll tell you something. Impact wrestlers are independent contractors. MLW wrestlers are independent contractors. AEW, I just saw guys working indies the other night. Now, will that change?
Well, I know for a fact there are indie guys that are signed that will not be indie guys after a certain date. Right.
No, I know that too. So AEW, less. Certainly less. They probably won't be independent contractors when all is said and done. Ring of Honor, they are allowed to do overseas, but not the United States. That's kind of, I don't know if that's independent contractors either, really. It's not like if they, it's different, but every promotion is different. So, but as far as like the thing of like telling fans to, chant stuff at WrestleMania and stuff, it's just not going to happen. I actually thought that came off kind of like, you could tell people to like, talk to your congressman or something or whatever. But don't think that people are going to chant stuff at WrestleMania.
You kidding me? There were no chants on Raw tonight.
It's not going to be.
And I had people asking, do you think there's going to be chants on Raw tonight? It's like, no, they're not going to be.
No, people don't go to wrestling people go to wrestling and they may want to do their stuff, but it's all within storyline. They may get mad because their favorites aren't getting a push, but that's storyline. You're not going to see a lot of disdain. Well, I mean, I can't say because when they went to Saudi Arabia, they did get they did get booed a lot in a lot of cities. So that did happen, but for but treatment of wrestlers and independent contractors, that's not stuff that's going to ire the average fan. It's like when people talk to me on the MMA side, and they'll go like, these fans don't care about, guys, failing for steroids. And it's like, it's really, fans will never care about that. That's about safety of performers, and that's about fairness of competition. It's not about, fans are still, look at the fans, they're still buying tickets to see John Jones, after they let him fight with those drug tests. It's like, that's not a surprise. If you think that, like, now, sponsors, will they do, a lot of them are going to be based on the fact of, what people complain. Sponsors did get, it's funny because of all the things that the corporate sponsors did get WWE to change, okay? The only one I can really think of is they got Moolah's name off of that battle royal, which in the big picture, it's like, yeah, we probably shouldn't honor Moolah, especially when you see the Vice thing. You probably are going to come up with the idea that, probably isn't the best idea to be honoring Moolah. But, as far as like real big important issues when it comes to pro wrestling, that is not high on the list.